can't get into it.
You can't get it. You can't get it.
No, I know what it was.
What about in 2000?
In 2000?
Yeah.
I don't think I used it in 2000. I was a big fan of Instant Messenger. I think that AIM, that AOL Instant Messenger, it was better than anything Facebook ever did. It was wonderful. It had a sense of mystery about it.
Embarrassing fact, I actually didn't have an AOL username until 2010.
Why did you decide to get one in 2010?
I don't know. I think my friend told me to out of a joke because I thought it was still a thing, and I didn't know.
Well, I mean, it was a lot of fun back in the day, but unfortunately, I think you missed the heyday.
I think I might have missed that
10 years or so.
How many AOL CDs did you get in the mail?
Oh God.
I used to get a lot, but we never used them.
Million. There was.
We just used to throw them right out.
No one used
never
them.
used them. But I do remember that back in the day when you would get all of the free AOL CDs, like the number of free hours just kept going up and up and up. When like AOL first started, you get like 5 free hours, and it was like 50 at the end. And you wonder how they made money, and then at the end they wondered how they made money. That's why it's not a business anymore. All right, so we're gonna start recording in 5, 4, 3, 2. Dramatic countdown for our viewers on Facebook. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PR Week. That's PR Week's weekly podcast for everything happening in the world of PR and communications. My name is Frank Washkuch. I'm the news editor of PR Week, and I'm stepping in for Steve Barrett, who's had a prior engagement this week. I am joined by a wonderful cast. We're all wearing glasses this week because we are all huge nerds for PR and marketing. We're going to bring all the best news about it to you right now. So to my left is Sean Czarnecki, our reporter covering corporate communication. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
Good, good. And Diana Bradley, our senior reporter covering consumer marketing, is here as well. Diana, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. Not wearing glasses, though, but behind the camera is Byron Kittle.
Contact lenses, though.
Contact lenses.
Oh.
So he kind of counts.
Yeah.
He kind of counts. So he's behind the camera. And all right, so here's what we have on the list this week. We're going to talk a little bit about the Global Power Book, which is a list of more than 300 of the most powerful people in communications around the globe. Really a huge effort to put it all together. Really interesting read and some good findings from it. We'll be talking about how the Mayo Clinic reorganized their communications. We'll be talking about the new lead communications official at Aetna. Interesting time for that company. And we'll be talking about the latest with Maria Sharapova. She's not had a good week. We'll be talking about the latest with Hillary Clinton, who has had a good week. So, to start it out, Byron, was there anything interesting that you saw in terms of the Power Book trend stories about how lead communicators around the globe use social media? That was the one story that really stuck out.
Yeah, so the lead communicators we spoke to, as Frank said, over 300 leading global PR execs and leaders about a lot of different topics. And one of the things we asked about was what social media platforms they were using and how they were using. We've covered in the past that some leading PR people have switched to Facebook to talk directly to consumers. And they said in the Power Book survey, again, that they're using Facebook mostly for personal use. The two big platforms they're on right now is Facebook and Twitter. And they said Facebook for personal use, Twitter for professional use, which is actually the opposite for me. I never use Facebook for the personal side of things. Not that I use either one for personal
now,
stuff.
Are you just saying that so it shocks you that's the viewer of the podcast or anything?
I actually would prefer some people stalk me. It's on my official accounts. No one ever follows me or does anything or interacts with me.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. I'm sure it's not so
You
bad.
just asked people openly to stalk you.
Yeah, on the internet.
Yeah, on the internet.
You've
It's
just
kind
done a
of
very
scary.
dangerous thing.
Well, I'd rather people stalk me on the internet than in real life.
I guess
I
that's a
don't know
good
about
point.
that.
I guess that's.
People's lives have been destroyed.
I guess that's a safer way of looking at it in some ways. Depends on what skeletons are in your closet.
That is very true.
All right, back to business though. What I found interesting about that was that Snapchat wasn't really mentioned as a top line social media network by some executives. And I thought that was interesting because when you hear marketers talk nowadays, Snapchat is just all the rage with what they're trying to do and where they're putting their marketing dollars. And I was a little bit surprised. So we were talking about it on the way down. And maybe if we had a younger group of communications professionals, they might have been bigger on Snapchat.
And if you go back to our feature, the new influencers, there weren't a lot of them that were primarily based on Facebook and Twitter, probably because a lot of the new influencer-based communications and marketing is about creative content, so YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, those places really give them a platform to have that content in a way that maybe Facebook and Twitter don't.
Yeah. Another thing is, too, nobody mentioned LinkedIn, which they use LinkedIn in their recruiting, but maybe not so much as a marketing tool, which would make sense. So that was interesting that wasn't really mentioned as much either. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Mayo Clinic and how they've reorganized their communications. Allison Kansky, our healthcare reporter, is not with us this week, but I'll fill in as much as I can on this one. So one thing that they did really well was create a newsroom-like environment for disseminating all of their stories to the world. And I think one thing that jumped out to me from her story was how the director of social media at the Mayo Clinic, Lee Ace, came up with the idea and offered himself up for this kind of live video stream procedure of him getting a colonoscopy on Periscope for Colon Cancer Awareness Month last year, which is not only a really daring thing to do personally, and he deserves a lot of credit for that because it's such a private procedure. But I think a lot of healthcare marketing people would look at that as a really daring thing to do just because it's such a highly regulated marketplace when you talk about healthcare communications as opposed to regular consumer marketing. Guys, what do we think?
Well, I haven't had a chance to look at Mayo Clinic's website yet, but I do know from experience, having written a little bit about corporate newsrooms, they're not as well received as some corporations like to think.
Yeah.
Journalists particularly had a deep hatred of them and distrust, and so far from what I've been reading, the public doesn't seem to like them as much either.
And Mayo also did an interesting thing in that going in a completely different direction than an old, stodgy, boring corporate newsroom. One thing they did was using their own patients, of course, the patients that want to be used as examples, as the best storytellers. For instance, somebody who had a bionic eye implant, seeing his wife for the first time in decades, was a video was taped, for lack of a better term, seeing his wife for the first time, and then that was put out. That was live streamed, and it turns into something that is viewed more than 1 million times on YouTube after that. And that's a really interesting way of getting their story out there. Obviously, there are probably some patients who aren't as comfortable with that, but it's a really interesting approach to what they're trying to do. Huge medical organization, well-known brand, really interesting thing, and I'm glad we got to do a story on it this week. I thought it was really informative. All right, sticking with the healthcare and medical sector, Sean, tell us a little bit about what Aetna did this week and why it's interesting and important.
Sure, so Aetna recently named a new Chief Communications Officer. That's going to be Catherine Metcalf, and she comes from Deloitte consulting firm. Anyways, she is a healthcare veteran. She's had a lot of experience working for Pfizer, for Novartis, and I believe that she's also had some experience on the agency side working over at Conan Wolf. Anyways, one of the things that's interesting about her new position and her core duties is one of the duties includes integration communications. So they're the usual CSR, public relations, social media, and things like that. But one of her focuses is on integration, meaning mergers and acquisitions, meaning Humana. Right now, we're in what appears to be the final stages of that regulatory process. It looks like that merger will be closed by later this year. That's according to Aetna officials, some consumer advocacy groups and things like that. But we'll see how that goes.
Interesting merger. Going to change their company a lot, right? From being just a typical big insurance company to more of just a healthcare provider. Yeah. So that's really interesting. I mean, that's a total game changer for that company. It's not just a company acquiring a like company. So interesting stuff. Okay, thanks for that, Sean. Let's talk a little bit about a different kind of medical and healthcare story. Not a good one if you're Maria Sharapova. So Diana, bring us up to speed on what happened there this week.
Okay, so just to refresh everybody's memory, earlier this year you might remember that Maria Sharapova tested positive for a performance-enhancing drug. On Wednesday, the International Tennis Federation said that she would be banned for 2 years. But they noted that she did not intentionally violate the anti-doping rules. And this was a key phrase in the ITF's decision that has made a lot of Sharapova's sponsors continue to back her now. In March, when she admitted that she had tested positive for a banned drug, Nike and Porsche suspended their relationship.
Is it Porsche or Porsche?
I was wondering.
Do you pronounce that?
I always said Porsche.
Do we have an official ruling for Byron on this?
Why am I the official?
Because you're behind the camera.
Oh, I always say Porsche.
Porsche.
I am the only one that says Porsche. Probably.
I think Porsche with the accent is a little bit snobbier, which makes sense since it's a sports car.
And I'm from Connecticut, so I would be snobby about it.
Okay.
I'm from Connecticut, but I will
Do you
always
live?
say-
Do you live in Connecticut right now, though?
No, but I've always said Porsche.
Right. You're
Is
not
that
there
like
anymore.
only modern
Right.
day?
You weren't snobby enough to stay in Connecticut.
Okay.
Why?
Maybe,
Why?
yeah.
How did she take the performance-enhancing drug without intending to use it?
Well, she said it was a medical. She wasn't taking it to enhance her performance. She was taking it due to a medical.
And her
condition.
doctor had actually prescribed it for several years before it was put on.
Yeah, exactly. Back in March when she first admitted that she tested positive for it, Nike and Porsche suspended their relationships with her, while Tag here, is that how you pronounce it, ended discussions about renewing her contract. Evian at the time also issued a statement in which it neither backed nor indicated it was dropping her. But after Wednesday's announcement, Nike said that it would continue to partner with her, as did Evian, due to the fact that she did not intentionally break any rules.
I thought that was a very curious statement by the tennis group,
Yeah.
and that she didn't intentionally break the rules. Like, how do they know that?
Yeah, I don't know.
How are they sure of that?
I'm not sure. It's a 30-page document. It might become clear.
If I read all 30 pages of it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
What wasn't the case that she made was that the substance had been allowed at the same dose that she had been prescribed by her doctor, and the rule changed back when it became more tightly regulated, lowered the amount that you could take, and her doctor didn't change the level that she was prescribed. I believe that was her defense.
That was her defense. Do you find it believable?
That's a good question.
Diana, do you find it believable?
I think I do. I think I do, and I think that it's great for her that all of these sponsors are continuing to back her. Head is her racket manufacturer, and they've always supported her through this. And after this announcement, they continue to support her. They said that the 2-year ban is flawed. And Porsche said that it's keeping its activities with her on hold, though, because she's appealing the ITF's decision, so they want to wait to see what the outcome is of that. Avon, though, so Maria Sharapova was brought on as the face of their perfume Luck back in 2014, and they are dropping her as the face of that brand, and but they said that decision has nothing to do with the ban. So
You could say her luck has run out.
you could say that, yeah. You definitely could say that.
So I have to tell you, I found it a little bit hard to believe that it was also accidental. And I think the reason is that whether it's her or LeBron James or Tiger Woods, these professional athletes that make tens of millions of dollars a year are like their own organizations. They have so many people that work for them personally or help them personally or are like provided to them by the sponsors. I just found it really hard to believe that something as important as drug regulations just could have slipped through the way they did.
Yeah.
I just find it hard to believe. I'm not saying she's lying. I just found it hard to believe. Yes.
Maybe believable is not the right word, but plausible.
Plausible.
Is it plausible?
And it's almost as hard to believe as something like a giant marketing campaign coming to market with a country's name spelled incorrectly. with all those
Right,
people
which we
working on
also
it.
saw this week, and also in the world of sports. We saw with Adidas misspelling the name of the country Colombia this week, spelling it like Columbia University. Interesting. Thank you for bringing that one up. Byron. Okay, one last thing before we wrap up this podcast, and we'll talk about it. It's a historic night on Tuesday night for Hillary Clinton as she passed the threshold of delegates pledged to her to officially clinch the Democratic nomination. Diana, you are the lone woman in this podcast. How do you feel about it? Since we're putting you on the spot right now, go ahead.
You have to speak for every American woman.
150 million people at least are listening to what you have to say right now.
There are 8 live viewers right now.
I have to say I'm with her.
You're with her?
I
Okay.
am, and I think that,
Full disclosure.
regardless of whether you support her or not, it was a historical moment.
Do you think Sanders should drop out?
I do.
I think he will next week.
Like you already
I mean,
said,
I-
it's-
Yeah. I think he will next
I think
week.
it's a little delusional now at this point, I have to say.
Delusional is a strong
That
word.
he's still...
Well, do you think that he still believes that he can win, or that he's just doing it to prove a point? Because Hillary Clinton herself
I think
stayed
it's
in
a
for
bad
quite a
idea.
while.
It's a bad idea.
Why is it bad?
Because it takes away supporters.
People said that about Hillary in 2008.
Yeah, but
and the same
Hillary
thing for
was
Barack
out
Obama.
at this point, though, in 2008.
Sure, but
Stakes are higher this time around.
you think they're higher?
Yeah, it's
He
a
did
little
sound
scarier.
conciliatory after his meeting with Obama
I
today.
agree with that. I think he's going to stick around for the DC primary, and then that's it. He's just going to get out.
My only caveat to though is because we have criticized Republicans for closing ranks behind Donald Trump, despite his statements. But they use the same exact logic that they need to have party unity in order to defeat, the giant threat that is Hillary Clinton. And I think that my only concern is like consistency in ideals and basically. Like I just want to make sure that if we're going to support Hillary Clinton, it's like for the right reasons, not because we're afraid of somebody else.
Did you know that
Let's be careful of the word "we" are out there.
Sanders' campaign manager isn't he paid like $800,000? Like
I don't know
like,
that.
like basically, there was a rumor. I don't know if this is true, but there was a rumor that he was telling Bernie to keep going because
Yeah, there have been a lot of reports about it, but there have been a lot of reports about this in the past couple of days. I know the Journal talked to a lot of people on the Sanders campaign who did kind of paint him as believing he could still pull off some sort of miracle at the convention, and other reports have said otherwise. So it depends. It depends what you read. I think.
We also asked the Power Book interviewees about the election, and not all of them answered it, the question. I think there were a little over 100 people that responded to the question. Only 8 of them, these are leading global PR executives, only 8 support Donald Trump. But even the ones that support Hillary Clinton did not say that she was a fantastic candidate. I think the headline that we went with was PR execs choose Hillary as best of a bad bunch.
Yeah, well, one thing that's interesting is the likability ratings for both of them, which is so bad right now, and that's a really unique thing. I don't think it's happened in a general election decade, so that's really fascinating. Something to keep an eye on. Okay, folks, that's all we have time for this week on the PRWeek podcast. Thank you for taking 15 minutes to listen to us, and see you next week.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Yeah, but whoa. And drop our tape recorder on the floor there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Tune in next week.
It made for a good action shot.
Yeah.